Three, two, one. Welcome to the Oh Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
How you doing this week, Dan?
Good, man. Good to see you again. August 15th, 2020.
Time is flying.
Episode 14.
Wow.
I know. Ready to get into it. You know, right off the jump, I just want to make sure that we shout out our monthly movie giveaway. And we are giving away this month, look at that, a sweet 4K Ultimate Collector's Edition of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. It's not The Last Jedi, folks. This is The Rise of Skywalker.
This is the real stuff.
Yeah, that's a nice box.
Yeah,
so
sealed.
You want to get your, now we have this out on social media, and if you want to get your hands on it and have a chance to win, all you got to do is listen to an episode. So if you're hearing this, of course, you're listening right now. And then all you have to do is send us an email and follow us on social media. That's it. And
Simple.
then this will be yours. So to email us, just send us an email at obpodcast@gmail.com. That's OHB as in brother, podcast@gmail.com. And, you know, the email can be about anything. Comment on the episode, say hello, make a suggestion for a future episode, whatever it is. You know, there's no hard requirement there. It's about as simple as it gets.
Easy lifting for a free movie.
And
you can have it any, you know, if you're like Dan and you go for digital and you don't want box, and we'll just send you the code. So it's up to you.
Yeah. So episode 14, I don't know what we're going to call this one. Wick meets Blonde, maybe?
Yeah, Wick versus Atomic Blonde. Well, the idea was...
Well, is it versus? That we need to talk about.
Not really. My idea was originally, I actually saw a few weeks ago an interview with Charlize Theron.
Is it Theron or Theron? And she says it's Charlize Theron.
She does. I just changed it the way I said it.
Really?
I thought that's the way it was proper.
Now
I usually say
off.
Theron.
So you're right.
So anyways, I was watching this interview with Charlie Theron. That was a bad joke. But I was watching the interview and she was talking about action movies and women.
Yeah.
And I said to you, the original thought was, why don't we do, you know, an episode about action movies, because there's so few with women that are successful. And I really started to think, are there any that have been successful? And what comes to mind when you think of women in action movies, other than low box office?
Not a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, the things that pop into my head are, you know, things like the Underworld franchise and Resident Evil and those kind of things, you know, but it's, you know, it's not a deep catalog, quite frankly.
The one that came to me right away was Sigourney Weaver for the Alien franchise. She got physical in that, but even all those ones you mentioned, how much was them?
Correct.
You know, where like Daniel Craig, although not all those crazy stunts he doesn't do, but he does a lot of his own stuff. And you find it more with guys. But she was talking about The Italian Job. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
With Mark Wahlberg?
Yep.
That's a reboot.
Yeah.
The original had Michael Caine in it. But she was talking about getting there. They were all meeting, the cast, and they got the production schedule. She was the only female in that, if you remember. It's a bunch of guys, and was Matt Damon one of them? I don't even remember the cast. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't recall that he was.
I remember Mark Wahlberg more than he was kind of the leader.
Yeah.
So she said they'd hand out the schedule, and hers has 5 weeks of driving training prior to filming. The only one. The guys didn't have to go because they were going to do their own driving and their own stunts. So she was a little miffed and kind of brought in, and she seems like the type that would bring it up, you know, and say, hey, what's going on. So that led to her talking about Atomic Blonde.
But
And
are you going into Atomic Blonde now?
well, I'm kind of giving you my thoughts on how we got to this
Oh,
point.
to get to the episode. Gotcha.
So she brought up Atomic Blonde, and
Right.
I had said to you when I was pitching you the idea, I said, "Have you seen Atomic Blonde?" I know I had asked you back when I first saw it,
Yeah.
and then I thought, why don't we compare John Wick versus Atomic Blonde?
And I
that way
love
we
that
could get
idea.
into the natural conversation of a guy action hero and a female action hero and how they differ, and so that was the thought.
Yeah, and I love that idea. And so John Wick and Atomic Blonde. So we're really just talking about the original John Wick, the 2014 original, yeah. Which at this point it's a trilogy, certainly not Keanu's first trilogy, or even in the action genre for that reason, if you lump Matrix in with that, obviously. But and then what is the story with 4 and 5, John Wick?
Well,
right? That was just announced.
Yeah, well, actually,
Or confirmed, I guess.
The day after 3 came out and did so well, 3 is actually the highest grossing
And
of the 3 of them.
That's Parabellum, right?
Parabellum.
Yeah.
And so you don't kill a cash cow.
Yeah.
So they signed 4 right away. And probably somebody was smart enough to say, hey, let's, they already got an idea for 5. Shoot them together. And that way it's easier on everybody. Why get everybody have to come back, and especially Keanu Reeves, the kind of shape you got to be in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the training it takes. Why not do 2 and 1?
Right.
Kind of makes sense.
So let's dive into John Wick.
Okay.
2014. Now, so I don't recall that I saw this in the theater. I think I saw this, at home. I think I missed it in the theater for some reason. I just don't. Atomic Blonde, I know I saw that in the theater in 2017, but John Wick, I don't think I did. I don't know. Did you see that in the theater?
I don't remember.
But, my setup here and the sound bar, I mean, it was, 4K, as good as the 4K digital transfers are. It was a decent viewing. But so we've both, again, obviously, you just rewatched it. Like,
correct.
It's hot off the presses.
When John Wick came out,
yeah,
4K wasn't out yet. So if you saw it at home, chances are it would have been Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And again, not to make a huge difference between the two, there's not, unless you have a big screen and you have all the contraptions. We both play it through an Xbox, which is 4K, and then you have to make sure you have the right connection to your TV, and then you're going to make sure the settings within your Xbox and your TV are set. It's a lot of people think they're watching 4K and they're not.
Right.
And they haven't said it yet.
And again, just come to your senses and go all digital. But you can go back to episode 5 and check that out if you want.
So first thing I want to bring up right away is the same guy directed them both.
Sort of.
Well,
and I was going to say, yeah, there's linkages here between the two, which I'll be honest. I guess in the back of my mind, I'd assumed, just because stylistically they're very similar, but I didn't know that until I looked, at the credits and all of that. But yeah,
what's his name? You give it a shot.
David Leitch.
David. Okay, Leitch. Is that how you say it?
It is, yeah. David Leitch. I know the spelling
throws
you off.
Leitch. Yeah.
Well, I was originally saying Leitch.
Yeah.
Until
it's Lei.
Yeah,
right?
until the many interviews that I watch with her and Charlize and him actually. So it's Leitch.
But interesting dude, because he co-directed. That's why you said sort of.
Well, and he was uncredited. He's not even credited as directing.
And I went digging to find out why, and I couldn't find out.
Yeah, there's a very sort of vague reference in, I think, the Wikipedia post about it, but it doesn't really answer that question. So
Right.
I don't know. It seemed like from that, again, that statement, like something to do with the Screen Actors Guild or something to do with the guild that maybe, I don't know. I don't know. It's
See,
weird.
because what I started to think when I realized he co-directed Wick, I thought, is this like a, screw you to the John Wick people? Like, I'll show you. I'm not getting credit, but
Oh,
it's
you
none
mean
of
when
that
you
because
mean his directing of Atomic Blonde?
exactly.
Yeah, right.
That was my first thought, but then I find out he executive produced Wick 2 and 3.
So this is adapted from a book called Scorn, right? Or this the original title was going to be named Scorn,
Wick,
and
you're talking about,
John Wick.
yeah.
And again, you can see this, you can read this on Wikipedia, but Keanu Reeves keeps referring to it as John Wick, and then eventually that just sticks as the title, and it's John Wick. And but they go back even further because Leach, there's some other connections, right? Leach has many, many years of stuntman work.
Yeah, Brad Pitt.
Yeah, like it's an unbelievable resume of
Which
all
I'm
the films he's worked
surprised,
on.
I put in for those gigs.
Yeah, you never got a call back.
I did not get a
Yeah,
call.
strange.
And the Matt Damon stuff, come on.
Well, both from Boston, it
I'm a
seems
little
to write
stunned.
itself. It's a
Yeah, I'm a
no-brainer.
little stunned.
It's a no-brainer. How do you like
So,
them apples?
yeah, I'll show them when I come out with Mike Smith.
So I can't
Yeah.
imagine. I can't. Yeah, the Mike Smith, the Mike Smith identity.
Yeah, I'll get the thing down.
I can't believe. It would be
Yeah, I
hard.
guess I'm back.
Oh, that's pulling that right out of John Wick. I can't imagine there's anybody that hasn't seen the original John Wick by now, but
If
you
you're an
know,
action guy or
yeah,
an
for
action
those
girl,
that haven't, so he's basically how would you describe him? A retired assassin or mercenary of some type, right? I mean, basically he's a hired gun.
yeah,
Um,
it's
and
interesting. Both movies start at the end, you
yeah,
know,
right,
which
right.
I thought was kind of interesting. That
And
they
again, the parallels won't be surprising given the fact that again, with Leach being involved and those other connections. And I think even the stunt coordinator, one of the guys,
right, and Leach, did some stunts
yeah,
in the movie. Like every movie he's directed since two, Deadpool 2,
right.
and another big one that I'm blanking on right now.
Yeah, he had a pretty decent short, but
Oh, I
pretty
know what
decent
it
resume.
was. It was the
Didn't he do Fast and
Hobbs,
Furious too?
Fast and
Yes, yes,
Furious, like
yes.
the Hobbs and
With
Cobb or
Rock
whatever.
and yeah,
Yeah,
not
I've
yeah.
not gotten there.
No, it's on I have it queued up.
Yeah,
I don't watch.
I mean, I checked out of that franchise. I think maybe 2, 3.
I checked out before the first one. I haven't even seen any of them.
Yeah,
I
we were
just
not big
can't.
Vin Diesel fans,
No, in fact, what
but
was that one we walked out of? Remember that? We literally get up. We were at then it was called Pleasure Island, which is
yeah.
now basically Disney Springs
What
in
did we walk
Florida.
out of?
It was Riddick, Chronicles of Riddick.
Oh,
Do you remember? We got up and walked out. It was so bad.
and we do this when we walk out. It's got to be bad.
Yes.
And I'm not a silent walker outer. I usually get up and say, that sucked.
Yeah.
So everybody in the
I want
theater
my money
hears
back.
me.
Right.
And some people will give it right back to me. Yeah, go see, whatever, and other people like, snicker. But
No, we could go line by line. So however you want to break this down, but you mentioned it starts off at the end. So you just like right out of the gate, you're in the story because
yes,
you're already like, okay, what, the basically it opens with this SUV slamming into like a stone ramp on a what do you call
Like
it?
a dock.
On a dock, exactly. And then out comes John Wick, falls out. He's all beaten and bloody, and so
He's got a
you already have
video playing.
yes of his wife, Helen, played by Bridget Moynihan, who's she's credited. It's funny, Leach isn't credited as co-director. She's credited and is in it for like 2 seconds.
Well,
And not even
actually,
really in it. She's on the phone and some
yeah, the only scene
flashbacks.
she's in is when she was in the hospital and she was dead.
Yeah, right. That's true. That's
Good
true.
acting. Give her credit.
So, you start off with all these questions. Okay, what just happened? What, and you start to kind of unravel and then, as you say, it then continues to play out to show that you very quickly realize his wife has a terminal illness. She passes away, right? And then
it's a very kind of sweet opening, right?
Very emotional.
After we see him all bloody,
it's very emotional.
He says bye to her at the hospital and
right.
the flat lines, and next thing you know, the dog comes to the door.
Yeah, so there's that, before that, the cemetery when he's at.
Oh, that's right.
There was
another character.
I don't know where you split the credit, but I thought for what is it, Chad Stahelski, who was the actual director that's credited,
right?
Who also is another stunt guy. He, both of them together, again, wherever the credit goes, stylistically, it's a really fantastic looking movie. I
think
thought
both of them. I thought both of them.
I did too.
We'll get into the other one.
Yeah, from the color palette to just the shots and the framing of scenes. I mean, pretty damn good job for first time out of the gate, really. Now I wondered if if you think of these guys as stuntmen having to choreograph fighting scenes and things, I wondered to what degree that played into their just kind of an innate ability to direct. It kind of almost naturally lends itself in some respects to directing.
It does, because
right?
They know how the shots are supposed to look, how
right.
these moves are supposed to look. So obviously they're looking at the dailies, and they're checking, probably they film a scene and they take a look at it, and they can tell whether or not the move was pulled off right, or did Keanu do something funky, or do we have to shoot it again? Right. So yeah, I think, and it's weird because both of them were like roommates, weren't they?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think they were like roommates, or at least the guy who was credited, Chad, invited him to LA. So at least he stayed with him for a while. So I think one got the other into the business, because he was really into martial arts and different various kinds of martial arts.
And I think he was the main guy on The Matrix. He had a big role in the stunt work on the Matrix trilogy.
Oh, really? For Keanu.
Yes. Yeah.
Now,
whether or not it was doubling, or the choreography or whatever, I probably a mix of both, I would imagine. But so as you said, I just want to bring that up because it was one of those initial shots that just was really a beautiful looking shot with the umbrellas and
it's
which
funny.
Is interesting that connects to
correct.
It's going to be hard not to go back and forth, but
it is.
But
we
so
were
again,
the same shot.
That's right. That's
sure.
right. And in fact, I don't even think I connected that in my mind until I'm saying it out loud. So, but to your, you mentioned then, okay, so he's at home, and then his wife, he gets this gift delivered to the house, which is a crate. So, it's an animal of some kind. And it turns out to be this beagle that his wife leaves him after she dies, saying, I don't want you to be alone, and it's still important for you to love something, and all
other than a card.
Other than a car, yeah. And it's this.
Yeah. So, first of all, I thought Keanu does a real nice emotional job at the beginning.
Yeah.
Kind of setting up the connection right away, where the dog and the wife, and so it was kind of, and he, doesn't have dog food, so he feeds it cereal in the morning, the same
That's
thing
right.
he's eating. So it's kind of cute. But
I'll get you some kibble later.
yeah, so uh, and then he decides, to put the dog in the car. He's going to go for a ride with it.
You know, sweet. The cars in this
Oh, that
movie.
Mustang is,
Oh my God, the muscle cars were just awesome.
yeah. And so he stops at a gas station, and there we encounter Theon Greyjoy.
Did you see how much the gas was, by the way?
$4. I
Jesus
did notice
Christ.
that. And
Jesus.
at that time it was that high.
Oh my
It
God.
always cranks up, and then like we go to war with somebody or we put sanctions on somebody.
Yeah.
And what is it
Hey,
now? I don't even know what it is
it's
now.
about a little over $2.
Oh, I thought it was still under $2.
Nah, it's crawled up again.
But so yeah, he stops at the gas station. It's funny, we both noticed the price of the gas. So there if anybody doesn't know Alfie,
Yes, Alfie
Alf,
Allen.
Alfie Allen, he's a great bad guy. He's from Game of Thrones. If you don't know him,
And of course, he becomes a very sympathetic character in Game of Thrones, ultimately.
he was initially, and then decided to, do a horrible thing. And even that he didn't totally do.
Well,
But
he was the one that had horrible things done to him.
Correct. But anyway, we're
Yeah,
not talking about Game of
I'm gonna-
Thrones. So he's the kid of a big mobster, like probably one of the biggest mobsters,
Russian mobsters. Yeah.
Russian mob. And he's one of these kids that had everything, probably like a silver spoon kid, has everything handed to him, never has to pay for anything or whatever. So he sees the car, him and his buddies pull up. He sees the car. He's like, "Hey, sweet ride,"
Eyeball on that Mustang, yeah.
Yeah, and he says, "How much?" And Keanu says, "Oh, it's not for sale." And then in Russian, he says something like, "Everything's for sale, bitch." And of course, then we find out Keanu knows Russian
Very
because he
quick.
does it right back to him, not
Yeah.
this car, bitch.
Right.
He says it in Russian. So, and then he drives off, and you figure, okay, that his buddy kind of pushes him away. Says, "Sorry, man, have a good day."
But you can tell Alfie's character, Yosef, wasn't
he's not
probably
going to let it go.
Not gonna let that go.
So he doesn't, and they show up with a bunch of guys. They show up at Keanu's house when he's asleep.
It's another tender moment there with the beagle, with Daisy too, which is
laying on the floor.
Well, he made the mistake earlier of thinking, and of course I know this, but he makes the mistake of thinking the dog is going to stay nicely on the floor on a blanket.
Which it was.
But you see how he kind of pushed her down, like, okay, you lay here, cut to 5 minutes later. All right, come on up,
Yeah, he gives her the little, come on.
Yeah, so they're in bed, and then
they're
the alarm.
In bed, and then,
she wakes him up.
She kind of makes a ruckus.
Right.
And hence we find out all of a sudden that Keanu's this super sniper, super fighter.
These guys are in his house.
I don't know. Actually, I should know. He takes on 12 guys?
Well, no. So you're jumping ahead to a different scene.
Okay.
So he says to her, you got to go out, figuring the dog's got to go take it, whatever.
Yeah.
So as he's coming down the stairway, very quickly he
Whacked
sees
by
two
the
guys.
bat.
Yeah, and he sees two guys in front. So it's really just those three in that scene.
Right.
And he gets beat down immediately.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they kill the dog. Right. And he wakes up, and then the dog is laying there in front of him.
In the meantime, Alfie, and I don't even know what his name is. What was his name in the movie?
Yosef.
Yosef takes the car to a chop shop and says, I need clean numbers and stuff, which is, when people steal a car, they get a different VIN number. And so if you ever get pulled over by the cops or whatever, they don't know it's a stolen car or whatever. And John Leguizamo we meet,
Yeah, it was a good
And
little part.
yeah, and we also met. We left out when they were at the cemetery. We meet
Willem
a
Dafoe,
friend of him, Willem Dafoe.
Marcus.
Right. So now this movie's got some star power in it, and it only gets bigger from there. More people come into it that from movies, whether you know their name or not, is who he's up against. And the father knows who he's up against as far as knowing John Wick.
Now, this is something I really liked about this movie. And again, without paralleling over to Atomic Blonde yet, you very within 10 minutes of the film, 15 at most, this guy has a reputation. This
Right.
guy is known. And it's interesting because if you read, again, this is just like in the Wikipedia post, but they originally were thinking of an older character, someone in their 60s who.
Keanu's not far.
Well, yeah, he's like 50, early
55.
50s. Is he 55 now?
55, yep.
Wow, that's impressive. And it gives me hope. But it was they were thinking of someone in their 60s who believably could have had this long history in the underworld, whatever. And I even read that like Paul Newman they were thinking of him.
Wow. The
When
interesting thing is Vigo, right?
When did Paul Newman die though?
Oh, he was gone before 14.
Yeah. So
they
just
were probably thinking of a
Paul Newman type. Yeah.
But Vigo and Keanu in real life are only less than 4 years apart.
Yeah, I can kind of see that with some of the physical scenes of Vigo, but yeah, he certainly comes off a little older though in the film, anyways. Yeah,
but you think of Keanu and he's doing a lot of this physicality. There's no way you cannot, because they've got his face on screen.
Yeah, and he's been into martial arts for a long time.
Right.
Long time.
I mean, you think back to The Matrix, and I don't know how much, obviously he trained heavily.
Yeah, maybe
one of those actors that whatever part it is, he kind of goes overboard.
Yeah, it might have even been before that. And I don't know what style he's into or whatever. And I know that they talked about him learning different styles for John Wick, Oh, The Reputation, right. So I liked the fact that there was already this built-in mystery of what is this, and as you talked about, the Vigo is the one who first references, like, he's known as the boogeyman.
Right. I once saw this guy
Baba
kill 6 guys with a pencil.
Yeah. But he says John Wick is the guy you call to kill the boogeyman. So again, just kind of this grand scale that they put him on as an assassin.
And really, to kind of get out of the weeds and into the bigger picture here, we basically got Keanu now on a vendetta to get Vigo's kid, and he's going to do whatever it takes, including shooting up a church.
It's a very simple story, really,
right? From then on, it is.
Boy meets girl, girl dies of terminal illness, girl gives man a dog.
How many clever ways to shoot a guy?
Yeah, but I like that, though, that the story was somewhat simplistic, but yet, it was such a huge motivator from the beginning. That opening scene is all you needed to believe that he became really hyper-focused and set his sights on this goal, which, as you said, was to go after the kid. And he wasn't going to stop until that happened.
When he meets Marcus, which is Willem Dafoe, at the cemetery,
right,
the next time we encounter Marcus, he's offered a bounty from Vigo, and he says, I want you to kill John Wick for $2 million.
It's a great Russian accent.
Hey, wasn't that like? Yeah. And I didn't get a call.
It's crazy.
I got to call Brad Pitt.
You got to talk to your agent.
I got to call Brad Pitt. That's it.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
So at that point, we figure, okay, and he says, okay, he takes it and says, yeah, consider it done. So at that point, I'm thinking, okay, Defoe's in on $2 million, $2 million. But in the course of the movie, we find out he's actually helping John Wick and pays dearly for helping him too.
Yeah, because while he's staying at this, hotel for the underworld, I guess,
The
called the
Continental,
Continental,
which is, I don't know if you know this, along with 4 and 5, they're making a TV show called The Continental.
I did hear that. And,
Yeah.
the exterior of the Continental is the same exterior they used in The Dark Knight as the bank that Bane, well, The Dark Knight Rises, I should say, when Bane goes in and they jack up that stock exchange play. It's the stock exchange in The Dark
Really?
Knight. Yeah, it's the same. If you go back and look, it's that same exterior shot
Oh,
of
wow.
the
Because it's
Continental.
on a corner.
That's right, with the
Yeah.
steps that lead up to it. Yeah, go
Oh,
back
yeah.
and watch
I'll
that. You'll
check
see
that
that
out.
connection. Yeah, but
Gotta be kind of an action guy. And this is like a dad movie. Dad would have,
glad you said that, and that's a perfect segue. Now, before we segue, it's got 87% Rotten Tomatoes,
right.
81% on the audience side. That's solid.
Yeah.
But it's a perfect transition into Atomic Blonde, because you said, yeah, you got to be kind of an action guy. You said
Right.
action guy, just using the
Right.
vernacular. And you're right, Dad. We mentioned that on the episode when we interviewed Mom. Is Dad was big into his action films, especially your boy Stevie Seagal.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah, that was something else. The guy, the stunt guy, the director, had doubled for Jean-Claude Van Damme.
oh, that's funny.
All I'm
My
wondering is,
boy,
was he the guy that was up on the
yeah,
counters?
and Time Cop.
Yeah.
Once again, it's a great film. But Charlize Theron, in one of the interviews I watched, actually it was her on when I don't think she has it anymore. Chelsea Handler had a Netflix talk show, and it was on there, and she was basically saying, I'm a fan of these types of films, and her father and mother were fans of like Charles Bronson and Delta Force, and
I know who you're saying.
oh Jesus, Missing in Action, and oh my God, that's terrible.
Braddock.
Oh my God, and Texas Walker
Walker, Texas Ranger.
I can't think of his damn name. Oh my God, that's terrible.
Christy Brinkley and the
We're gonna have
exercise.
to edit this out of respect for him.
Yeah, the exercise commercials with Christy Brinkley.
Oh my! I got to go through the alphabet now.
How can we not?
Oh, it's a C, dude. There's a C. I think Charles Bronson threw me. Chuck Norris, for Christ's sake. Chuck Norris.
How pathetic was that?
So, because her parents were fans of action stars.
I saw that interview.
Did you?
To be, because she said Chuck Norris, so it has to be the same interview.
Yeah, Chuck Norris, Charles Bronson. And then she herself just said, I mean, I'm a fan. And, and so.
Was she sitting kind of by herself? It was like a social distance kind of thing?
Well, they were just on different couches.
Okay.
On different couches, yeah. But it was back around, when the movie came out.
Yeah, because I saw it recently, that interview. I know it.
Yeah,
I
pulled it up on.
Yeah, she could have mentioned him.
I pulled it up on YouTube.
Yeah, transitioning now to Atomic Blonde.
Right. And I only made that comment because
I said action.
Yeah, and but you kicked off the episode saying that when you think of women in action films, what do and I'm a little bit hard pressed. Obviously, I could come up with a list if I sat here and wrote them out, but not like this.
Not like this.
Not like this. This is to me a game changer.
To me too. And I look back at Italian Job, which for her was her first, what she considers action movie. And that was more driving action. She did all the driving. I guess they all did all the driving. And because remember I said at the beginning how she had to do 5 weeks of extra training.
Right.
I guess she could pull these 360s. I mean, that's what they would do all day, is do
Right.
these donuts into a parking space and all this stuff. And I guess Mark Wahlberg on the first day, he was doing a few of these and he got out and threw up
Oh, that's
because
funny.
it's really, it's nauseating to do that stuff.
Right. And
So,
she's dabbled in this before. That's the other thing. It's not like she's new to the genre,
right,
but again, not to this
not to
degree.
this extent.
No way.
And I can't think of another comparable movie to this extent.
No, so okay, so Atomic Blonde 2017. So now you have David Leitch, director,
Correct.
right? And it's well, you set it up. This it's set, give us kind of the backdrop here.
So we don't know a lot about her character. In fact, we don't find out who she really is till the final scene.
Right.
And they keep pulling the little swerves at the end of it. But even throughout the whole movie, you don't know much about her background at all. How did she learn how to fight like this? Nothing about her background. Basically it starts with between two guys. And it's funny because the very first scene is a guy getting bounced up. He gets hit by a car, bounced up into another car. Just looks like a brutal scene.
Well, and it's again with John Wick, there's some of
Yeah,
those where guys getting hit by SUVs and just like cringeworthy scenes, like oh my
exactly.
God,
Tom
and
Cruise did one of those. I remember one of the Mission Impossible. He's running and an explosion goes off and it just throws his body into a car.
yeah,
And how they do that stuff is amazing.
I had heard that Keanu, like, he does most of the stuff, but like if you falling down the stairs or getting hit by a car, that's where he sits it out
Yeah.
and lets the
I don't think the
professionals do it.
insurance people would.
They wouldn't want him to do it either, right?
No.
But yeah, with Charlize.
So with Charlize, we're introduced to her. She's in a tub, all bruised. Her arms and basically everything we can see of her is bruised. And she's
Right.
in a tub full of ice, which,
It's funny you mentioned the tub scene because I didn't realize. Like, I guess she's been in bathtub scenes in like 6 or 7 of her films.
Oh, is that right?
She's in different bathtub type scenes. Yeah, it's kind of like John Cusack is in scenes with rain all the time. It's one of those weird oddities.
And like you said, she's coming off the
Mad Max
movie, which I guess they're going to make a sequel about her characters, but it's not going to be her. It's going to be a prequel.
Okay.
And she's 45.
Yes.
So, it's not like, I mean, you look at her and she looks the same as she looked 20 years ago, except for the period where she did Monster and got into the Eileen Wuornos category where she got an Academy Award for that.
Right.
But she's like, and the same thing with Keanu. These people don't age.
No, he's a freak of nature for sure. When I saw this in the theater, I remember seeing this and I was wanting to see it. I was kind of like hyped up to see it. And
Atomic Blonde.
Yes. Based on a graphic novel, Coldest City, I think is the name of it, which I'm not familiar with, but the look of the film again is very striking with the color palette and those
very techno,
the spray painted kind of titles, which maybe that calls to the graphic novel kind of aspect of it. But what hooked me in was the period that it was set in, and I thought it was interesting too because
Cold War.
Our last episode we just talked about Doctor Strangelove, which was kind of interesting, but
and it's literally 3 days before the Berlin Wall comes down.
And the opening of the movie, after that scene you mentioned, right after that scene, it kicks in with what is to me one of the main stars of this movie. Almost maybe too much of a star, I might be able to argue, is the 80s music. Because I'm a kid of the 80s and I grew up in the 70s, but I love the 80s. I love 80s music, like just everything about that decade.
Yeah, and
And
everything from what Thompson twins, were they in there?
they
Or,
weren't, but it actually starts off with an awesome David Bowie song, Cat People. But just, Der Kommissar and Till Tuesday is in it, and
99
David Bowie and
Luftballons,
Queen. Yeah, exactly. So it's a fantastic
and the
soundtrack.
Clash. What's the Clash? The
London
famous
Calling.
London Calling.
That
Of course,
actually
they
ends
put
the
that
film.
at the end, which was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
But yeah, the music definitely stood out.
It really does. And it's, and it really, it fit all the different scenes
Yeah.
pretty well. But sometimes, honestly, I thought it was almost like taken away from some of, I don't know if I want to say the story. We can get more into the story as you go along, but it was something I definitely loved. I enjoyed the music throughout. I have the soundtrack.
I think if you didn't notice the soundtrack, that would be nuts, because
No, and it was
such
intentional.
a big deal.
Yeah, it was intentional. It's
and I kind of, it was, like, it brings you back to a certain era, and
right.
and I think it helped the piece, because in a sense it's a period piece, because it goes back, but it keeps jumping. It keeps jumping from the course of what, 10 days, is it?
I think it's just 5 days. I think it's just 5 days.
Was it? I thought
5
it was
days,
10,
8 days, something like that. Yeah, a week.
Anyway,
call it a week.
It starts with her, and here's a great supporting cast. Toby, I forget his name.
Wait, James McAvoy?
No, James McAvoy's in it. He was great. Huh?
John Goodman?
John Goodman, and the guy next to John Goodman who played Capote.
Oh, that's right.
Toby Jones,
yeah.
He's a great actor.
Yeah.
He played Capote at the same time. Who's the guy who died, unfortunately? Played Capote.
Phyllis Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
Imagine he was good, man. Magnolia, man, he was good.
He was going to win 3 or 4 Academy Awards. He was that good.
It's another tragedy, yeah.
But anyway, after she gets out of the tub, she puts the this really bright blonde,
platinum blonde,
yeah, really platinum, like her own hair's blonde, but
against those, her blue eyes is just like,
it sticks out,
super striking, yeah.
But you know what? And there's some great. You talk about directing. This one stood out more to me than even John Wick.
Really nice shots.
He was taking some nice shots from stairways, where she'd either be going down a stairway or up a stairway, and he would put the camera in the perfect spot that would, like, you talked about building tension and or setting up like a surprise of some sort. There was just a lot of times I noticed the directing. You're not supposed to.
No, but even
if you notice the directing, it's not very good. But in this case, I noticed it, and it was just really good.
The symmetry of a lot of the shots, just, again, we talked about Kubrick last episode. It was just, you could pause it, and it was it's like a photograph.
Yeah.
Just so impressive. And I kept thinking, this guy, it's really his first directorial. Not his first
credit,
one.
Anyways.
Well, no, is it?
I think it was. Okay,
Deadpool 2 was
Wick
after that, and right.
Deadpool 2 comes the next year after.
I guess now it's interesting. You watched Atomic Blonde first, and then you watched John Wick.
Correct.
I did it the other way around. I watched John Wick, and I wondered, I'm like, because I love John Wick, and I'm like, is it? And I really like Atomic Blonde. I really love it.
I know when I first saw the film back when it came out,
Atomic Blonde, yeah.
Yeah, I either called you or we were talking, and you hadn't seen it yet. And I said, yeah, go see it. I said, it's John Wick with a chick. That was the way I described it, which is crude, but it was so similar. It was, except she really did a nice job of fighting, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but she fought like a woman.
Well, she talks about that herself, right? There's,
Yeah,
again, lots of interviews where she talks about it. And the point with that is that it's not about fighting like a man.
right.
It shouldn't or doesn't have to fight like a man. I really like that it was, and the stunt coordinator said this, instead of, one-handed punch, she uses both hands or uses whatever's around her that she can use to,
Right.
that kind of stuff. And
And you don't throw a punch with your fist. She's constantly using her elbows,
yeah,
using her knees,
although
using the stronger parts of her
she
body.
throws some sweet punches in this film.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
And if you notice, she's always wearing those leather gloves.
Mm-hmm.
She's always kind of in a sweat suit. I'm not sure the wig.
Sweatsuit.
Yeah,
You
like
make it sound like she's in a jogging suit.
No, like
it looks like a New Jersey
like a jogging. I mean, it's all designer stuff too, right? The finest. Every scene, she's in a new outfit. Very designer.
They're in Berlin in the it's very chic and stylish, and but the thing, I guess it's only really because I had just watched John Wick again was, with that movie. Again, the intention here wasn't to compare like this was better than that one, but I guess I wish that there was more of a stronger motivation that drove the character from the beginning. It's not fair to compare it, but Wick his revenge is set off in motion by this very tragic and sad emotional bit with the dog. And with her, I just felt like it was because at the beginning, when you mentioned the guy that gets hit by a car.
Yeah, that's
kind
her
of brutal
boyfriend.
Scene. Well, there's some relationship, obviously, because there's a Polaroid or whatever. There's a photograph of them together
when she gets out of the tub.
Exactly. But, as it goes on, it's kind of like he was one of the more irrelevant characters in the storyline, in my opinion.
I agree.
And so, and again, I'm not saying that was the character's motivation throughout the film anyways, because I think as you find out as a secret agent or spy, you do what it takes to get the job done. You're loyal to your cause and your country, and your friendships and intimate relationships, you take them where you can get them, and they're usually fleeting.
Right. And you remember when we were talking about John Wick, I was making some comparisons, or when we first started Atomic Blonde, we don't know much about her. Yeah. And I think that's the next chapter is going to be that likely her background.
The background. Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it'll change our viewing on, the emotional attachment to the character. But I didn't really need that to appreciate what she was doing through the whole movie.
No, let's talk about just that one scene. There's a fight scene in a stairwell in this apartment building where is almost one single shot.
Mm-hmm.
Right, where it's when she's got the character Spyglass,
mm-hmm.
who is this carrier of information
that he's memorized.
A list of all of these operatives. Basically,
that was the thing. The story, that part of the story seemed a little bit.
There was towards.
I've heard that before.
There was just
it's like a Bond movie.
Speaking of, real quick comment I wanted to make about that guy. I don't know who that actor is. This time I watched it, and the first time I saw it in a theater, and I've seen it since too, but is it me, or I'm waiting for him at some point throughout the movie to do one of these. He's got a face that looks like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, one of his disguises he would pull off his face. He's just a kind of an odd looking character.
He's got like a square face.
It's very strange.
I wouldn't have surprised me if he did do a Scooby-Doo.
But that fight scene in the stairwell where she goes at it with initially these two guys.
Yeah,
it's just she gets her ass kicked and kicks some serious ass. It is it's really impressive because, as she said, you're talking about, you're learning a dozen or more, 24 fight moves in one
Right.
sequence so that they don't have to cut away.
Exactly.
And, I love that. I was thinking of that when I was watching it, that I miss, nowadays everything is such jump cutting, constant jump cutting, ever since like videos came into it, like back in MTV, although not the early MTV, but we got to that point in media where everything's cut, 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 cut.
Yeah.
That, and you just can't sit with a scene for too long. So it was really nice to see a little of that.
I saw that. I saw her talk about that. And she mentions how, we did like a 2.5 minute all in one shot.
Yeah.
And that might not sound like a lot, but there's some, if you've ever, like when the movies come to your town, and, there's movies, we've had movies shot when I was in Orlando.
Oh, right. Filming.
There's movies shot in Boston all the time. San Diego used to have movies. You'll go out and watch them shoot for a whole day, or in my case, I was in a few as an extra, and I'd spend a week on one sequence. And then you go to the movies to see it. I'm excited to see myself, and I realize I didn't even get in. I didn't, a whole week of shooting, and it was like 2 seconds of film.
Again, you got to talk to your agent.
Yeah, I do have a really bad agent, but she, as much as Keanu Reeves pulled it off, I thought she was his equal. I'd love to see the two of them go at it.
Well, it's interesting. They have acknowledged that, they have thought about that. It's
of
not
doing a crossover.
It's not off the table. Apparently, I think it's Leach is quoted as saying, if the right story comes along, they would do a film with both of those characters. Them working together, oh my God, man. I mean, that would make
awesome.
$1 billion. I would love to see that.
How you get her into his world or him into her.
Well, maybe the way you do it, because honestly, yeah, it would be a little tough because of the period of time. Because now you've locked her in to a certain age in the 80s.
That's right.
Although in John Wick, we don't know when that is. We can assume it's more modern day. Actually, you know what? As I say that, I think, don't you see the new, is it the Freedom Tower in New York? Isn't there a shot of the skyline? So that might bury it. But
not to mention the artillery he's using.
Yes, so sophisticated. Yeah. And I know. But nonetheless, however they could get it done, maybe she's John Wick's mother.
Well, it'd be the other way around. Should be his daughter. Charlize Theron.
Oh, right. That's right.
So
that's right. I don't know. She seems to drink from the fountain of youth, so who knows?
Yeah, it's amazing. But
now, did you know she had this is probably certainly obvious for any of her fans, but that she has a dance background in ballet.
I probably heard it.
Yeah, I didn't know that I knew that, because I heard her talking about that, and she was asked, do you think that helped in a lot of the movement in this film, how it's a lot about movement and all the stunts and this and that. And she said, definitely.
I don't know if have you seen Red Sparrow?
No.
Because I hear a lot.
Isn't that from Hunger Games? Jennifer Lawrence?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Actually, happy birthday, Jennifer Lawrence. I think it's her birthday today. It's odd that you would bring that up.
Pull that out of your...
I saw it online. Scrolling the movie.
Oh, happy birthday. What is she, 30?
And you know what's interesting? It's her birthday and Ben Affleck's birthday. And Ben Affleck, of course, won the Oscar for Good Will Hunting with Matt Damon.
Oh, brother, if you want to know birthdays of the stars.
No, it's 6 degrees of separation. I was trying to get us all the way to Kevin Bacon. And we interviewed Mom 2 episodes ago. She mentioned a movie called Taking Chance, starring Kevin Bacon, folks.
Kevin Bacon. Okay, so we're there. Oh, brother.
I skipped about 3 steps. But
all the details on, we should change this to Oh, brother, the stars' birthdays.
That's funny.
But, we talked about the umbrella scene that was in It was almost the same scene, other than they were using it for a different purpose.
Right.
But that overhead shot where they get into the street and there's snipers in the windows or whatever, so everybody all of a sudden opens
Use
an
the
umbrella
umbrellas to
as
camouflage.
cover, which was
It's
great. But
nice.
it was just shot really nice.
The where
Easy
she
scene, but
Yeah,
just
I
well
mean,
shot.
we could sit here and just talk about all the action sequences. I think of the one where she jumps out of the window after going at it with those two guys
Right.
in what's his face's apartment, McAvoy's character Percival,
Yeah.
who is, another what do we call him? Spy, I guess.
Right.
And that she, that's another storyline that's going on throughout this whole thing.
That was it. That was probably, and if we look at the money, this made significantly less.
No,
At least,
it made more.
well, maybe on a international scale, but domestically, no. Domestically, this one came in like pretty short, like $20 million shorter than Wick.
Yeah,
Almost
maybe.
positive.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the total box
But if you're
office.
looking at total boxes, I'm not sure.
It's almost 20 million more than John Wick. I
Oh,
was
really?
surprised to find that. It's like 100 million.
And again, we're looking at different years, significantly different as far as 3 years in the movie business. It went from, $6 to $12 pretty quick. Like how much they charge. It's like, did they open the theater down there yet for 15 cents a movie?
I think this coming week they do.
Yeah. So you can pay 15 cents to get COVID.
Yeah, I'll pass.
Yeah, I'm going to pass too for a while.
Yeah,
That's something we can bring up. I wrote a piece for our Instagram.
Facebook
Is that where
blog.
it is?
Facebook blog. Yeah.
Blog. I wrote a piece about the movies, and you might want to check that out. And if you have feedback or any thoughts about it, let me know.
Yeah, current state of going to the movies. Yeah, that's on our Facebook blog.
Yeah, but I think the bottom line is Charlize Theron has thrown down the gauntlet and said, anything you can do, we can do as far as women.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Guys will always say, guys are just naturally stronger and bigger and tougher, and there's no way. But no, I think this totally blows that out of the water. And it's not, and like you said, it's the way she fights, it's what she uses, it's really about brains, not brawn. Although, she's doing some pretty incredible things too, like when she jumps out that window with
that hose
with the
or whatever
same hose that's tied around a guy's neck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great scene right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of night, go check out the behind the scenes of those stunt those fight scenes on YouTube. It's very impressive and fun to watch those.
Yeah. To see how they do it, and you think, is this believable? Can this really be done? And if you watch the way they prep and the way they shoot it.
Yeah, and you're talking, like you said earlier, hours and hours a day, just that commitment. I mean, when I went back, and I mentioned earlier, I was watching Keanu Reeves at the gun range there doing that. It's just like, it's mind-blowing to watch him dial it in,
And, as an actor, you much prefer long, give me like, 10 minutes of it's like the famous movie Touch of Evil, Orson Welles. The opening of the movie, people talk about that, we'll be talking about it probably forever, how he shoots that opening sequence of action is one shot.
The original John Carpenter's original Halloween.
Yeah.
Of course, that was a tip of the hat to,
Exactly. And a lot of people, like if you've ever seen The Player, there's actually Buck Henry's in an office and he's talking. Remember the scene in Touch of Evil where it's just one shot, and as he's talking, they're doing the exact
That's Tim
Same
Robbins.
thing.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
Right? Isn't that Tim
Tim
Robbins?
Robbins is
Seen
in
that
there.
in a
Yep.
long time.
It's a great movie. Robert Altman, right?
I believe. Yeah, I believe so.
I think I'm right.
Yeah, I love these both of these films pretty equally. Again, I think to see her pull off what she pulls off in this film from a
And what were
physical
the numbers
standpoint.
as far as the, like your Rotten Tomatoes numbers
So,
for her?
well, okay,
They were
so
lower, weren't they?
yeah, 78% and 64% from the
Critics.
audience rating.
Oh, the audience was the low one.
Yeah,
That shocked me
I
a
know,
bit.
especially where it's, again, it's ultimately brought in, a few more bucks
Right.
overall. But yeah, I don't. That's very surprising. Now, is that based on demographics of the moviegoers, or I don't know? I'd
I
be
don't
interested to
know.
dive into that a little bit. But
Yeah, because there's something odd there. And to me, these movies stand up, you know, and again, it's not like one versus the other, but they're pretty equal. They're like brother and sister movies.
yeah, and I don't think again, I didn't know it going into it. Very quickly, obviously, learned all the connections, and then like, okay, it makes sense. They're not
Right,
necessarily hiding from the fact that yeah, there's some carryover here because there's a lot of the same people working on these films.
right.
But to dismiss Atomic Blonde, for anybody who's a critic of it, to say, well, it's just John Wick with a blonde wig, or or whatever they might say,
Right,
it stands on its own. It's a
right.
fantastic film, and
And when and I said it jokingly, this is like John Wick. I meant that as a compliment in the sense of it's the same kind of action, the same kind of stunt work.
now what did listen, we didn't mention it, but it's worth mentioning. I'm glad this isn't the episode where we're interviewing Mom, but there was some very steamy scenes
For
in this.
Charlize Theron. Theron.
Yes,
Yes.
and we didn't mention. I think her name is Sophia Boutella, who
Yeah. What
played.
do I know her from?
She was in Star Trek. Is probably where you know her from, but
Must be.
she has this little. She's what is she, a photographer? She says, or something, but she's really a rookie spy herself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they end up having a little
Yeah.
rendezvous, so to speak, which is very steamy, which
Very
is a little bit
steamy.
of a BC story, whatever you call it. And I questioned at one point whether that even needed to be in it or not. That
Yeah.
whole
Was it
storyline,
gratuitous or not?
yeah. And just that whole storyline. Did we even need that character? But yeah, it
Yeah.
made for a couple of hot scenes for sure. And Leach I read where he said it wasn't done to be provocative, although it was. It
Yeah.
was more about showing that I kind of made the comment earlier. Charlize Theron's character is, she finds her relationships in these moments that are very short lived, but
Yeah. And I think she did generally care for this woman.
yeah, I agree. Especially, spoiler alert, she ends up getting
Yeah.
whacked.
She doesn't make it to the end, but
Yeah, James McAvoy takes her out.
yeah. And, she liked her and it was reciprocated. Remember, she left, some pictures
Correct.
for her that, and they really weren't on the same side. I mean, from the get-go, we see her in a bar. They meet in a bar, and they're adversaries. They're from different countries, and it's not until the end we find out Charlize Theron's true. We think she's a Brit, basically.
Yeah, we find that she's a triple agent.
Yeah, at the end we find out she's working for the CIA and John Good.
Yeah, and there's criticisms out there definitely that it got a little bit in the weeds at the end. Like there was almost too much to unravel in the
Yeah, there's
last.
almost too many Scooby-Doo masks.
Yeah, I agree, and I still have a little bit of a problem with that. Whereas, again, John Wick's very straightforward. This thing happens, and then it's all action. For me, there's so much to love about it, and again, to see a female character like that just kicking ass,
Yeah,
it was just really awesome. And to combine that with some of my other loves, as I said, with music, but especially 80s music,
Yeah.
it put it over the top.
Yeah.
And credit to Leach. I mean, just an
First time
amazing
out,
directing
man.
job.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
I mean, to go from this and then Deadpool 2, which is a lot of humor, but a lot of action too.
Right.
That's a pretty good kickstart to what should be a pretty long career, I would
Now,
think.
now we mentioned at the top John Wick 4 and 5,
Right.
right?
And the Continental.
And the Continental. So I had to look up on for Atomic Blonde, and it's
Yeah.
reported that, right, there is a sequel,
Yes.
but it's going to
Yes.
be a Netflix production.
They brought it to Netflix.
That's what I'm reading. Yeah.
And Charlize Theron was the producer, and she's going to produce the second one. And they met. I think they're writing it right now. It's probably written by now, with the break, because people have been crawling a lot of people, like Kevin Smith has written a sequel to Mallrats. I mean, might as well take advantage of the time.
Yeah, I heard him talking about that.
So she is in on the writing of the second one.
Yeah, and I wonder if Leach would come back to direct.
It sounded like they were all as a team.
Well, she convinced or reached out. She's the one that got him and his gang to do Atomic Blonde. Like, this is something that was when they this was I said, based on the graphic novel. She, this goes back several years before that was even published, that she was interested in this character. So it goes pretty far back, but I guess from his work on The Matrix and everything, and then of course with John Wick, she definitely wanted him to be part of, this production. And good thing he was. What an amazing job.
Did a great job.
Great stuff. And Deadpool 2 is just fantastic. That's a great sequel.
Yep.
Speaking of sequels.
Yeah, there's, I think this guy, as far as the action and, you had comedy. I was thinking about it last night. Comedy's the toughest venue, I think. I think we're going to do a comedy show coming up. We've talked about it for weeks.
Yeah.
About, some of Harold Ramis' work and
John Hughes
stuff.
It's such a broad landscape. It's
and for comedy to sustain, like, I can look at Harold Ramis and John Hughes, and their work holds up pretty good in the humor department, and that's really unusual. We were talking about Peter Sellers a lot last week with Dr. Strangelove. Well, if you look at Peter Sellers and what a lot of people know him from is the Pink Panther, which you brought up. Those don't hold up too well. You watch those and they're not that funny in today's
Inspector Clouseau.
Yeah, I mean, he's still brilliant. He's still the physical, but they, you could tell the last film was like a paycheck, more than likely.
Chevy Chase. There's another one. Chevy Chase is just in terms of comedic actors, he just comes to my mind. I'm like, geez, I would still love, he's getting up there now, but would love to see him in another Fletch.
I would too. That's what I would Fletch, too, man. And it fits him perfect. I'd love to see another vacation movie with him. Look at when they went to a different cast. Even though everyone made a cameo, it was horrible. That vacation movie is horrible.
It was horrible.
Not a single laugh in it.
Horrible.
Not funny.
Well, what isn't horrible is Atomic Blonde and John Wick. There's two solid films.
Both good movies.
Yeah. Again, if you, by some chance, you haven't seen either one, you've got a couple of hours of enjoyment coming your way. Make sure you check those out.
And you like action.
Yeah.
This is really, and pick your poison. They're both good.
Giveaway. All you got to do, send us an email at OHB as in brother podcast at gmail.com. And that 4K beauty could be yours.
I'm sending it out.
So make sure you follow us on social media. On social media, we're OHB Podcast. So you can find us on Twitter, Instagram. We've got
it's good that you mentioned that, because
yeah.
I got a note from my doctor
Mm.
the other day, and he's like, I couldn't find your podcast. And I told him it was Oh Brother. And I said, well, make sure you type in OHB
Right.
podcast, not Oh Brother podcast, but OHB podcast.
OHB Podcast. You'll find us Twitter, Instagram. We got a Facebook page. We got a YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we push out new content, because we're putting a lot more of these episodes up on YouTube as well. And that's a lot of fun to do that. So this one will go up there as well, albeit maybe an edited version of it.
Yeah, shorter version.
Yeah, we'll spare you some of the gory details. But we've also got a listener line. If you want to drop us a voicemail, say hello, 407-476-8781. And
we accept profanity. So if you just want to call up and say, F you, Dan, and hang up, yeah, go for it.
I don't know where I'm going with this ending.
I don't know.
It's just drifting.
I was trying to help you out there.
Sometimes we have a natural, you say something and it just flows into some ending. And then other times it's just useless rambling.
Yeah.
Which this is probably going to be, set to that wonderful theme music that we have.
Yeah,
I'll lay that right on top.
This is another like serious episode
that's right.
Well,
that's what you think, but when you hear this back, it's going to be all action, baby.
Okay. All right.
It's going to be Atomic Blonde meets John Wick.
Yeah.
Well, that does it for another episode of the Oh Brother Podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.